Hey everyone, welcome to the Self Control Show. This is the essential podcast for every man seeking mastery over his own life. Here, we're going to delve deep into the art and science of self control, self regulation, and the intricate workings of the nervous system. Here's your next episode. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Jason Schnitzer. And this week I have a special guest on, again, back-to-back weeks with special guests, really liking this. And this week is my good coaching friend, Sid Scott. Thanks for joining me, Mr. Sid.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
Yeah. And Sid and I met through a mutual friend that's also in the coaching space. And what I've learned about Sid is we have similar styles in teaching in that he is a teacher of emotional intelligence, coaching on emotional intelligence. And, I think that vibes with self-control in such a way. And I would love to start off by kind of giving you the mic and tell us a little bit about your interpretation and ideas of what emotional intelligence even is.
Yeah, so my definition of emotional intelligence is really understanding what emotions are and how they drive you.
Mm.
And, you and I, we both know, but not everyone else knows this yet, that we do something or don't do something to feel something or to avoid feeling something else. And for the
Mm.
longest time, the overwhelming majority of my life, I was not aware or cued in at all into what emotions were driving me to do certain things, but also how I was living my life in order to avoid other emotions. And because I wasn't aware of that, I was running up against like the same challenges, the same patterns, the same
Mm.
things that just appear on the surface as like circumstance. Like these things just happen. But in reality,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily, but it seems that way when you don't know what emotions are driving you beneath the surface. So if I could sum up emotional intelligence in a nutshell, it's really like, okay, why do you do what you do? And when you
Yeah.
understand your emotions on a deeper level, you can actually begin to engineer yourself in such a way where, you can work with your emotions rather than feeling like life is just happening to you all the time.
Yeah, I mean that makes such good sense to me. So, and a lot of people I feel will kind of chalk that up to like, oh, this is just fate or what's the universe has in store for me. And I'm curious, it's like what was it that you kept running up against and how might somebody that's listening be experiencing that in their life that like really got you into like, that maybe a pivotal moment or moments things in your life that led you down this path.
Yeah, there's a few, man, to be honest, but I'll give you a couple examples. I struggled with weight all throughout
Mhm.
my adolescent and teenage years. I was just incredibly overweight. I was active, but there was something about food that just had a hold on me, and
Mhm.
I would do everything to get in shape, and I got in pretty decent shape, especially after I got into the military. But I never could
Mhm.
stick to a consistent diet, so to speak. Meaning, I would do
Mhm.
good for 3 to 4 days, and then I would just go off the rails. And like, no matter what I
Mhm.
did, even I had an in-person bodybuilding coach at like a hardcore bodybuilding gym. Like, and I was going
Mhm.
there every day, and I would still like have these moments of what feels like weakness where I would just become like overran with cravings. And it wasn't until I understood what was driving me that I could finally stop
Mhm.
binge eating and overeating, man. And what it came down to was,
Mhm.
you know, having a moment between the thought or the urge to take an action and then actually doing it.
Mhm.
And what I found in that space was I was actually really lonely. And I was able to
Mm.
connect the dots. Oh, every time I'm feeling lonely or isolated, I go for like the half gallon of ice cream and I just murder
Mm-hmm.
it, like just straight crush it. Not
Mm-hmm.
just because, maybe it's the Wisconsin in me that makes it very easy to have copious amounts of dairy in one sitting. But I was just lonely, man. And I realized, like, dang, what I really need in these moments is to just like have a conversation with somebody, even just a text
Mm.
message or a phone call, or even just connect with myself in some level. Like, yo, Sid, like, what would feel good to do right now, versus
Yeah.
just unconsciously like binge eating. And that's just like one example. But hey, the source of that was, I grew up with a single mom, and
Mm-hmm.
when she was younger, when we were both a lot younger, she would have to leave me in the apartment to go to work. And,
Mm.
I'd be in the apartment by myself sometimes. And
Yeah.
what I would do is I would go in the freezer, get some ice cream, and then like watch cartoons.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I understood, like, oh, that was the root of why I did that. Like, I understand myself on such a deeper level. And now I don't just try to mind over matter my way, through a craving or through an
Mm-hmm.
urge or through a difficult emotion. Like, I try to understand it better. So that helped me kick, binge eating and overeating to the curb. And then there's another thing that I was running up against is I was having chronic back pain, like lower back pain.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And man, I it started when I was 19, which is like really young to have back problems. And then by the time I was
Yeah.
24, I was a candidate for lower back surgery.
Mm.
And honestly, the reason that happened is because I was just so disconnected from my body and what I was feeling. I was just always like, go, go, go,
Mm-hmm.
go, go, do, grind, 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 grind. And in fact, it was like if I wasn't beating myself into submission with every workout, it was like, what was even the point?
Mm-hmm.
Just this hyper masculine
Right.
approach to everything, just very
Yeah.
aggressive with
Yeah.
everything, which serves a purpose. But what was driving me to that level was like a deep level of shame, a deep level of never feeling good
Mm.
enough, which went back to all the perceived times that I got, rejected by women. So I had this urge to
Mm-hmm.
really prove myself. And honestly, it ruined my back. Like I have my back is forever changed. It's something that I have to manage now,
Mm.
for the rest of my life. So man, I could go on for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think like what really stood out to me is just like that, like you said, just kind of like that. What's underneath it? Because like similarly for myself, like it's like, oh, I have secure attachment to chocolate chip cookies. So like I really relate to the ice cream and cartoons, and it's like, yeah, talk a lot about like um, with regards to like men specifically. And I think like what's going to resonate so much with people that are listening is like that underlying, I'm not good enough and shame and what's wrong with me, being like really the driver to why we do things. And like to your point, that hyper masculine go, go, go response, fortunately and unfortunately, gets rewarded in our society, especially like from a monetary standpoint, because usually the person that's able to do the most with the least amount of time ends up, doing well in some aspect of business. But then, to your point, it's like at what cost? And it's like, I'm curious, like, how would you coach yourself differently, like looking back, your teenage, let's just say your teenage self, knowing what you know now?
Oh man. You
Kind of a
know,
loaded question, to be honest with
It
you.
well, it's a loaded question, and it's a tough question because if I hadn't had to go through these things, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. But if I had
For
to
sure.
reach back, if I had to reach back, I would just encourage myself to focus on focus on the positives, focus on what is
Mm-hmm.
working, focus on the things that I like about myself versus all of the things that I think are wrong or like not good enough or like what other people don't see in me or like don't understand. Like
Hmm.
I would, it would all go back to just like loving myself more, you know, gas myself up more, hype myself up more. Like I would do that so much more. Like that's ultimately, you know, what I needed. And that's how I would coach myself differently. Like, hey man, you know, maybe she was, you know, she said she was going to meet up with you and you just saw her in the car kissing on another dude. And, you know, yeah, but you know what? That's her
Mm.
loss. She, you know, she missed out.
Hmm.
And, you know, that just gives
Hmm.
you more time to get better.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I feel that, man. Like I felt that in my chest when you just said that. I'm like, oh, so good. And yeah, and like I think that like why that really resonates is there's a lot of people that go through, you look back and you kind of laugh now maybe, but like in the moment, those happenings in your life, they're like so impactful and sometimes like mm, life lasting in some cases. And without the right support and attunement and caretaking and, you know, pr- proper relationships, we can be disorganized around like the feelings that come with that, like in the future, and carry that forward. So I just love what you said about just, basically what I heard you say was like I would be a better friend to myself. Because, I
yeah.
don't know about you, but a lot of people I talk to, myself included, it's very, very easy to get into kind of that critical loop, that self critical loop. And I guess, like, I don't know, you were talking about emotional intelligence and understanding your feelings and understanding why you do the things you do and move toward things and away from things. Would you say that like a big part of, growing emotional intelligence is, or maybe just give me your thoughts on changing that narrative in your head? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are it's really important to be focused in on the narrative that is playing out within you, like that
Mm-hmm.
negative self talk. We have to pay attention to it because there's kind of almost like
Mm-hmm.
a snowball effect where if you feed into it, you're going to feel yourself start to emotionally, you're going to feel weighed down. You're going to feel heavy. You're going to feel lethargic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to promote even more negative self talk. And to be honest, the best thing that I recommend for all, you know, for everyone is to pick up some sort of activity that forces you to be in some sort of adversity or some sort of challenge and then make the conscious effort to talk to yourself positively through it. And I have found that
Mm-hmm.
that is how I've been able to maintain positive self talk no matter what's going on, no matter what's happening around me. And it makes you a
Mm.
lot more
What do you do
sensitive to when
specifically?
you, yeah. So what
Oh,
I do
sorry, go ahead.
specifically is, yeah, what I do specifically is resistance training.
Mm.
Whenever you lift weights, if you're not a weightlifter, you can probably still relate with me here. Whenever you lift weights, there's always that moment in the set where that negative self talk creeps in where it's like, you can't do more.
Mm.
You're tired. Just
Mm-hmm.
put the weight down. Yeah, just, you know,
Mm-hmm.
this is getting kind of heavy. This kind of hurts. Right. Or if
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing
yeah.
if you're doing cardio on the Stairmaster, you're like, let's just send it. We did it. We did 15 minutes. Why don't we just call it quits? Oh, you
Mm-hmm.
know, this kind of hurts, man. You're getting kind of tired. It's like this 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 negative, weaker version of us. I say, you know, weaker. That's how I relate to it when I'm in the gym. This like this part of me that doesn't want to keep going, that just wants
Yeah,
to be negative, will show up,
yeah.
and that's how I can have a better. I'll use that space to really cultivate. You know, by the time I leave the gym, my self talk is just really on point. I feel really good about myself because
Mm.
I put myself under a challenge and I positively talked myself through it and made it to the other side. And I mean,
Yeah.
I was never trained to even do this ever. I was never trained to talk to
Mm.
myself positively, be a friend to myself positively, but also, condition myself to do it, not just when it's easy and everything's going my way, but when like it's
Hmm.
uncomfortable or painful or challenging. That's when it matters the most. It's so easy to be
Yeah.
positive when everything's going right, but like, how do you do it when things aren't going right? How do you do it when, you know, you are experiencing those, relationship challenges? How do you do it when, you are having a difficult time at work or your bank account is messed up? Like, how do you do it in those moments is what really matters.
Oof. Yeah. Now you're talking to my soul, dude. Because yeah, when the going's good, it's like it almost seems like everything's so easy. But then, like you said, when adversity comes, and all of a sudden, it usually comes with adversity, is uncomfortable emotions.
Yep.
And, at least in my experience, depending on your relationship with those emotions and those emotional states, it's like if the thing that you really want is going to put you in those emotional states, well, you kind of need flexibility to be able to experience those emotions, right? Or else you're never going to do the things that you want to do in life.
That
Or you're going to say
that
something
right
there?
there. No, just that right
Yeah.
there. Yeah. It's like a lot because we don't even train ourselves to be able to be with that. We
Hmm.
won't ever really go towards, more in our lives because of it. And more could mean it
Yeah.
can mean anything, right? Like apply it to anything in your life that you feel you would like to experience more of. Getting there is going to require
Yeah.
some form of discomfort.
Absolutely. And it's like, and especially with men, it's like, oh, yeah, we're good at experiencing discomfort. It's like, yeah, physical discomfort, right? But like a lot of us like go through life, at least this has been my experience. I don't know about you, but like when hard emotions come up, it's like, yeah, I'll do anything but feel those, right? I'll
Right.
just like push them to the side. We don't need these emotions, and go and do the thing no matter what. And like thinking like, oh, I'm big and tough and whatever because I can do that. When in reality, it's like, gaining emotional intelligence allows me to actually fully experience the emotion and be like, oh wow, this is oof. Let me take a minute to like sift through this and still do the thing, which I think, I don't know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, just gives you such an advantage over the people that just like come up against the emotion and push it to the side and go forward. It's like being able to actually experience the emotion and carry it forward with you while you still do the thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know, I feel like I'm saving energy because I'm not like constantly shoving those emotions to the side.
Yeah, well, I'll tell it to you like this, right? I have a very successful guy. He's done upwards of $100 million in sales and coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and yet there's an area of his life that is just fundamentally in shambles, and always has been, and it has to do with women.
Mm.
It has to do with
Mm-hmm.
women, and there's no other way to say this than like if you don't learn how to manage yourself and your emotions, you may find a lot of success in one area or maybe two areas, but there's going to be something that's missing, something that's just not working. And like the unlock is understanding yourself on a deeper level and what emotions that, maybe you're afraid to feel. And we have these
Yeah.
circular conversations, but I'm not his coach. Like I'm just one of his friends, and I'll have the conversation with him time and
Mm.
time again. But I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
dang,
Mm-hmm.
imagine having all the money in the world, all the success in the world, and yet you can't even see it. You can't even enjoy
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Hmm.
the whole piece behind emotional intelligence. It's like not just creating a life that you love, but actually being able to see it properly.
That's right.
It's one thing to have a beautiful woman in your life, but can you actually see her? Or are you in your head
Mm.
all of the time and then wondering why, she's, maybe you guys are having random arguments because you aren't even
Mm-hmm.
really able to experience everything that's happening. Like,
Mm.
that to me, emotional intelligence is what's going to allow you to create a full life and, actually enjoy it and enjoy every aspect of it. But a lot of men, we have this tendency to just stand on our strengths versus
Mm-hmm.
eliminating our weaknesses. We just stand on our strengths. Yeah, I've got a lot of money. Okay, but like, you're out of shape. You're not comfortable in your own skin, and like, you can't have a meaningful
Mm-hmm.
conversation, with a woman. Or, yeah, I'm jacked, I'm in shape, and it's like, yeah, but like, you're broke. You won't go do something that's hard for you to learn how to make some more money than what you're making right
Mm.
now. You won't put
Yeah.
yourself out there and create content that could,
Yeah.
create a business. Like, don't just stand on your strengths. Emotional intelligence will help you actually, like, stand on your strengths, but also address what's hard for you, what you're
Yeah.
weak in, so that you can crush it in any area, not just one or some.
Yeah. That's so well put. And for men out there, because like that, it makes perfect sense because it's you're talking about having to be vulnerable, Sid.
Yeah.
It's like
No, for real.
why would you leave an area where it's like you're not only are you comfortable in it, it's like you're fucking crushing it in it. You're telling me that I have to go over here now and start over, or like, I like trained in jujitsu and be a white belt again, right? And going back to like one of the first things you said, it makes sense now where you're like, hey, put yourself in those uncomfortable situations where it's like maybe you have to learn something, maybe you have to be up against something, whether that's physical or emotional, that makes you uncomfortable. So that voice comes up, so you have a chance to give yourself an experience of doing something differently in adversity.
And I'll tell you one quick story. While I was navigating that issue with my back, I met a woman, and she
Mm.
invited me to do a mindful meditation retreat inside of her home.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like all women, and then
Mm-hmm.
like me.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, mind you, I'm like, 225, 30-inch waist, like,
Yeah.
just a big
Jacked.
meatball, just jacked, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here, with these women who were they're all just like expressing their emotions, and they're just connecting, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, this is really like, this is something here. This is not
Yeah.
what I'm used to, like, at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get into this thing called the trigger point release, with, we've got like the soft, like the lacrosse balls and the foam rollers and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was rolling out my calves, and the woman
Mm-hmm.
comes over to me, and she's like, what if you just asked your body what it needs right now and how it feels? The next time you
Mm-hmm.
find a really tense point in your calf, just stop there and just ask it what it needs. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, that's easy. I can handle that. Simple enough. Fine. I'll find the
Yeah.
pressure point. I'll find the tough spot, and I'll work that thing out. So I find it, and I put in the weight on it. And then, I close my eyes, and I ask the question in my mind, like, what do you need? What are you telling me? And dude, I immediately burst out into tears as soon as I
Mm.
asked the question. And I was like, what is
Mm.
happening? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And as all of these
Can.
emotions like started coming out of me, the
Mm.
voice that I heard in my mind was, you've been neglecting me. You have been
Mm.
hurting me. And I was like, oh, snap.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
Okay. And it's that awareness and that understanding that's allowed me to, like, go from, well, at one point a doctor told me I'd never be able to put a bar on my back again, to like, now I
Mm-hmm.
can squat again, like, no problem. But it's because I was able
Mm.
to have such a good relationship with my body and start dealing with my emotions a little bit better, that I could perform better.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. And, I think counterintuitive for a lot of people out there that don't quite have that awareness of that big connection of body and mind and just like how intertwined that is. And yeah, that makes really good sense to me. Thanks for sharing all that, dude.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
And I'll be honest, like, it was uncomfortable to sit there, like having a somewhat of a mini breakdown in front of a bunch of women that I had never
Mm-hmm.
met before.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's the
Mm-hmm.
real stuff. Like that's the
Yeah.
real stuff right there. Like I felt more of a man after that experience because I was like, dang, I actually like sat in some really I did first I did something that was way out of my comfort zone.
Way out of your comfort
And
zone.
then
Yeah.
two, like I sat in it and I felt it. I couldn't run away from it. We were there for, we were there all day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, dude.
I was proud of myself.
Yeah, dude, makes good sense and like so counterintuitive to a lot of our culture that would say like, "Oh, that's manly." It's like, yeah, dude, why aren't you doing it? If you can ask your body and ask yourself in the mirror why you're not doing it, as opposed to, throw shade or throw a stone, if you will. I think most people would be pretty surprised at that answer.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, dude, I so appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, sharing a little bit about, well, a lot of bit about emotional intelligence. And I think all the listeners are going to be, pleasantly surprised to listen to all this and would love to give you an opportunity. Where can the people find you? Where do you hang out online if they want to
Yeah,
check Sid
yeah,
Scott out?
the best place to come hang out with me online right now is on LinkedIn. You just search my name, SIDSCOTT, um, and hit me up on Instagram if you'd like. I am Sid Scott. You catch me in the stories over there.
Cool, man. Well, thanks again for coming on, and I'm sure we'll be crossing paths again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.